Hello, hello, hello. What is going on, beautiful people? Welcome back. It's your boy Blue and the homie XP.29. And you guys are listening and watching to the Blu-XPerience podcast, episode 29er. What? This is crazy.
Wow, almost 30. I can't even believe that we're actually here already.
Yeah, we're getting old, bro. We're getting old.
We're getting old. Jeez. Wow, how you doing, Blue?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. You know, life is life, and I can't complain. I'm live, I'm breathing, and too blessed to be stressed.
That's it, man. Nobody wants to hear our complaints anyway.
Nah, it doesn't get you anywhere. Complaining does not get you anywhere any faster. Don't let me go there. Don't let me go there. But anyways, it's good.
Man.
And you know, another reason why it's good is because we have another special guest with us today.
Yes,
and that is the homie from the face, well, one of the faces and voices behind the Pilotedge ATC network. I've been a member of Pilotedge for, I have to look at my account. It's been years. I've learned, Pilotedge has taught me how to fly VFR. Pilotedge has refined for me how to fly IFR, and it's hold me to a much, much, much higher standard in my flying. And honestly, I'm going to continue using them because I feel like personally, this is just me saying personally, I'm not being paid to say this. They didn't say, hey, can you say nice things? No, legit, like, they are a part of me becoming a pilot, like transitioning from being a sim pilot to a real world pilot. And I feel like they're a big part of that for me. Everybody say welcome to Kevin from Pilotedge.
Hey, great to be on. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Blue. Thanks, XP, for having me.
Absolutely.
No worries, man. Absolutely glad to have you on board. When I heard that you're going to be coming on, I was like, yes, it's about time we have Pilotedge on the show. No, it's true. It's absolutely true, because for me and what we do, flight simming, without ATC, it's almost just boring and dead. I'm sorry for the guys who don't fly online of any sort at all, but for me personally, having air traffic control is just one of the best things about flying at my desk in front of my computer and so forth.
We like to think so too, and for those who might be listening who haven't tried it, maybe it's just the configuration getting set up is a little daunting, or you're just a little intimidated. Everyone has been there, everyone has been at that point, so there's plenty of resources on the Pilotedge website to help you get set up, both technically, and then also get you going as from a student pilot perspective, or from learning how to actually talk to ATC.
Yep, absolutely. And that's what I love about it. And, on a weekly basis between me and Blue, people have seen us in front of our computers, on our simulators, and with ATC. But what they have not seen a lot of, and what we know about, because I've had a Pilotedge account for a long time as well, is Pilotedge, and what Pilotedge is and isn't, and what it's all about. So since we have you on the show, I would love for you to tell our audience what the Pilotedge network is about. As a matter of fact, I was talking to Blue, goes, do you know when Pilotedge started? I have no idea. I have no idea when you guys started. And so
don't worry, I've got the whole history for you. And for the listeners and the viewers who already know about Pilotedge, stay tuned, because we've got some really exciting things to talk Oshkosh coming up here a little bit later. But yes, for those who aren't familiar, Pilotedge began in 2010. It actually launched in 2011. There was a beta in 2010, however. So it's been around for over a decade. And through the years, it's gone from just being in the Los Angeles Center area. That's where it launched back in 2011. And it's expanded to the entire western half of the United States now. So a lot of people who were early adapters of Pilotedge, or maybe used it and then stopped for whatever reason, or maybe heard about it and then never really looked back, they kind of think, oh, well, it's only the West Coast, or it's only SoCal. That couldn't be further from the truth at this point. And it's actually the entire western half of the United States. So there's a lot of airspace out there. Of course, the question always comes up about, well, are you going to expand? Tell us about the East Coast, Florida, New York, that area. There's nothing to announce right now as far as an expansion, but I think it's important for people to really understand that it doesn't necessarily matter where you fly your sim. The CEO, so I'm Kevin from Pilotedge, as you guys have said, and I do the marketing for Pilotedge. I also do special projects over with the network. The founder and CEO is a man named Keith Smith, and he's actually based out of New Jersey. So
Wow.
I always people find it interesting that he built a network on the other side of the country, or I should say that covers the other side of the country. And I think that is the biggest testament to the fact that it doesn't matter where you fly your sim. Airspace is airspace. The Class Delta and the ILS, they're all the same across the country. And sure, there are going to be little things here and there that are going to be different, just as far as procedurally and all. But as far as the FARs go, the aim, all that, that's going to be the same across the entire country. And the last thing I'll say about that is that you're a pilot, so you need to learn how to fly in airspace that's not just your own. So just because maybe Pilotedge doesn't cover your home airport doesn't mean that you should look elsewhere for your ATC. But anyway, so yeah, it's been around for over 10 years now. And the premise behind it is it adds air traffic control to your flight simulator. Over the course of flight simulation, over decades and decades now, there's never been a good way to get ATC into your sim. The sims have done really as well as they can with providing the synthetic version, which is the text-based ATC. You press a button, it gives you a prompt to respond. And it's there's even some stuff out there that's voice recognition, some third party. But regardless of if you're using the voice rec or just the text-based from the default, what the sim provides as default is if you're using one of those, you're not going to get the actual experience of opening your mouth and hitting a push to talk and actually having to speak, knowing there's someone listening to you. And I think that is the biggest thing that student pilots struggle with, is the fact that they have the mic fright, right? And they know that someone is listening on the other end, and they're afraid to sound stupid. And so by practicing with Pilotedge, there is someone on the other end. And sure, you still are going to have that fear. People experience mic fright all the time on Pilotedge because there is someone listening. In fact, there could be a lot of people listening. It's you, it's the controller on the other end, and it's any other pilot who's on your frequency with you. It's a giant multiplayer network. But the great part about it is that it's all virtual. So if you make a mistake, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. You might as well make your mistakes on Pilotedge than in the real airplane with a CFI when you're paying $200 or $300 an hour, versus Pilotedge, where you can do tons of hours of training per month for just a low fee of $20 a month. And so the controllers, there are actual people on the other side of the radio. You key up your push to talk on your headset, and it is as real as it gets. People often ask, well, can I do this? Can I do this? Assume you can do anything that you can do in the real airplane on Pilotedge. There's a very, very small decimal of a percentage of things that you cannot do on Pilotedge that you can do in the real airplane. So I always tell people, just assume you can do things until someone tells you otherwise. Pilotedge uses all the real frequencies, all the real procedures for all the airports. It's very realistic.
Can I jump in and say that I'm listening to you saying about mic fright and different things like that, and I used to do Pilotedge. I haven't done it in a minute, and I'm on the other network, Vatsim, which we'll ask you about. But I did two discovery flights, and it's funny how being used to listening to you guys on the ATC side of Pilotedge talk and having to respond or listen for your call sign, how when I did it in the real world with those two discovery flights, it's almost like second nature at that point, where I heard the communication, I heard what was going on. We called up a Class Bravo airspace, and I didn't even concentrate on the fact that I'm hearing what's going on. I just knew it was there. I heard it, and I was able to concentrate on my flying. And so I can tell that's a real world testimony to having that as simulated for you when you're at your desktop sim. So when you go into the real world, you're a little bit ahead of the game. Would you say that? Absolutely, yeah. So
100%.
That's how I felt.
There are, and we put them on our social media too. There are so many success stories that we have from people saying exactly that. People who have soloed after 6 or 7 hours. People who are getting their private pilot exactly at 40 hours.
6 or 7 hours?
6 or 7 hours. Yes, we have at least 2 or 3 stories of success stories that we know about. These are people who actually wrote to us to tell us that, and you can find those on the social media about how they did that. But it's all because they're practiced on Pilotedge, and like I said, the amount of money they saved themselves by not having to spend those extra hundreds and thousands of dollars picking up radio skills and all that with an expensive airplane and CFI. It's very impressive, and flight simulation, when you look at it from a more professional and realistic standpoint, and there's nothing wrong with a hobbyist flight simmer either. But when you're actually putting a flight simulator towards a goal of getting a private pilot's license or an instrument rating, whatever it is what you make of it. And it's really a great example of you get out of it what you put in. If you take it seriously, especially with Pilotedge, you're going to get so much out of it. But if you're just kind of half-assing things and you're not going through your flows and your checklists, then you're not going to get as much out of it. So, I think I encourage people to really treat it as realistically as they can. Use checklists, use flows, procedures, call outs, whatever you do in the real airplane, translate that into your sim, and it's just going to make everything all the better. If you're already very happy with your sim, but you haven't tried ATC, it's kind of like you don't know what you're missing. And I will warn you that once you try it, you're never going to want to go back. But it's really something that you're missing out on if you're not flying with ATC.
Yeah. Let me ask this up front because I want to get into
Sure.
some more details of Pilotedge. And one of the questions I want to ask is what it is and what it isn't. And the reason I'm asking that is because a lot of people are on the other network. It's just Vatsim. And there's also IVO, and there's other networks out there that people have. What are the similarities and what are the differences for Pilotedge?
That's a great question
that people should consider.
It's a great question. I want to preface it with kind of knocking down a common misconception that Pilotedge and Vatsim are competitors. People often, even on Pilotedge's own Discord, they say, they refer to it as like, oh, don't say the V word. Like, no, it's actually Keith Smith, again, founder and CEO of Pilotedge, still CEO today. He was on the board of governors of Vatsim prior to starting Pilotedge. So he's actually still very good friends with some of the founders. And there's been a lot of turnover on Vatsim in the past decade for sure, but he's still very good friends with some of the founders over there. And they actually still talk, and they talk about the industry. They talk about what each other are doing. We bounce technology ideas off each other. Obviously, Microsoft Flight Sim 2020 coming out. They both networks had to, I should say, all networks, IVO as well, had to adapt to how are we going to get this working right with SimConnect and all that. And so they all kind of bounce and work off each other. So they are not competitors. There's nothing wrong with them. Now, to get into what it is and what it isn't as far as Pilotedge goes. And one more thing, I guess, to say to that is that some people use both, and it's perfectly fine to use both. In fact, some people will. I mentioned how the western half of the United States is the Pilotedge coverage area. So someone might depart JFK for LAX in a jet and transition from Vatsim over to Pilotedge when they're over Kansas area. More so, Kansas, Colorado area. So that's something that we see a lot. And so as far as what it is and what it isn't, so some of the big things that differentiate Pilotedge from the other networks, and I'd say the biggest one is the guaranteed ATC coverage. Everyone has been on Vatsim at some point and had that dreaded, attentional aircraft ATC is closing, it's dinner time or whatever it is, and you've just programmed in your FMS or you've just briefed your whole SID or departure or whatever it be, or you're just now approaching the coverage area and they sign off, and it's such a blow to the whole night. You've really amped yourself up for this. So that doesn't happen on Pilotedge. The Pilotedge controllers are paid. It's actually a job for them. And so from the hours of 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. Pacific time, that's 15 hours a day, 7 days a week, 363 days a year. Pilotedge closes for Christmas and Thanksgiving. That is it. All other holidays, they're open. So that's the absolute biggest differentiator, is that ATC will be there when and where you expect them to be. So you never have to guess. And the reason that's so great too is for the people who don't have that much time to flight sim. Maybe they have to get the kid down and they've got a half hour before they get, between the time they get the kid to bed, between the time they have to go to, and the time they have to go to bed. And you don't, if you're flying somewhere like Vatsim, you're going to spend 5 or 10 minutes figuring out just where the ATC is that night and what looks hot, right? But for Pilotedge, you don't have to worry about that. You can know the second you hop on your computer that ATC is there, and it's going to be good quality. So quality and coverage are the two biggest differentiators. Aside from that, though, there are a lot of big details. The biggest one of the details, I should say, being that Pilotedge uses all real-world frequencies. So whereas Vatsim and IVO, you have a frequency list of controllers to see who's on, and that kind of, you have to figure out, okay, that's the approach control, which means he's doing the tower and ground, so I have to tune the approach control to get my IFR clearance on the ground at LAX. That's obviously not realistic. You would never tune approach control at a class Bravo to get your IFR clearance or taxi or takeoff, what have you. So Pilotedge has a very intricate radio system that routes everything to the appropriate controller. So there are thousands and thousands of frequencies in the Pilotedge database, anything from clearance delivery, ground tower, you name it, all the way up to center. And you use the real you would use real world aviation charts to find these frequencies. Additionally to that, the radios are modeled entirely realistically to the point where you can use a CTAF frequency or a Unicom, and that will work just like it will in the real airplane. It doesn't have to be covered by a controller for the frequency to work. You can just tune up 122.2 or 122.8, whatever it might be, and it's a frequency in which you can communicate with other airplanes. Along those same lines is the frequencies have distance and line of sight calculations within them. So if you dip below a mountain and you're between, and the network knows where all the terrain is, and the network knows where all the receivers and transmitters are. So if you dip between a receiver and a mountain, then ATC is not going to be able to hear you, and you will hear the transmission start to degrade. It starts getting static, and then eventually it'll just completely cut out. So little things like that, and there are other several ones, but the frequency system is very intricate, and then obviously the quality and coverage are the biggest differentiators there for the other networks.
Oh yeah, I remember when, wow, I remember when Keith introduced. I used to call it radio fade, and they were testing it, and it was like, for us in the sim community, it was like, wow, are you kidding me? You can actually mimic the stuff. As you said, you go behind a mountain and all of a sudden the radio fades out. So you got to make sure where you're going to make your radio calls, especially if you're flying GA. And that was another point I was going to ask you, because I fly Vatsim a lot, and it's all IFR flying with airliners. However, what I love about Pilotedge is that if you guys are interested in GA stuff, you do the GA, you do the flight following,
absolutely.
and things like that. So don't, I might discount people who fly GA because I really don't, but there's a lot of GA pilots on Pilotedge that utilizes the frequencies and asks for flight following. That's when I learned what flight following was. Like, flight following, what is that?
The majority of customers are general aviation for Pilotedge, and that's not to say by any means that Pilotedge is anti jets or anti-airliners. Not by all means, they are not. Airliners, everything is totally fair game on Pilotedge. But the reason that you get the more GA on there is because statistically, the pilot who's going to be more inclined to pay $20 a month for the service is that who is training in the real world. So versus a hobbyist who just flies Airbus or Boeing, they might be less likely to pay $20 a month just because it's only a hobby for them. They're not really getting anything out of it towards their real training. So I think that's the reason why you get the GA heaviness over on Pilotedge, but that's not to say you can't take an A320 up and then do a full airliner flight. We just ask that you know what you're doing. It's a common flight simulator. I actually say flight sim-ism to work backwards, where people actually learn. They think they learn everything they need to know about IFR in an A320, and then they have no idea how to fly a traffic pattern in a Skyhawk. And that's just a very common thing that happens in flight sim. And we like to try and break that trend a little bit, where certainly if someone comes over and they don't know what a SID or a star is and they're trying to fly an Airbus, we're going to refer them over to our training program, which is so great. Pilotedge does have a training program that's included with every single membership. It's no extra cost at all, and it's completely self-guided. So again, what I said before, you get into it what you you get out of it what you put into it. It's got a bunch of briefings and videos. It's called the CAT program for the VFR, Communications and Airspace Training, CAT, CAT program. And then there's also a very similar program for the I ratings, the IFR training ratings. So those can literally take you from, they call it 0 to hero within the course of 10 to 11 flights, VFR and IFR. And it's really been put together very well, and there's a ton of success that we've seen from it. Thousands and thousands of pilots have done these ratings and really become better pilots because of it.
Yeah, I want to just slide in and just say that I'm a product of the CAT and I rating system. Early on getting in, honestly, that was the thing that got me really active in Pilotedge. Was like I legit used was it like a 7-day free trial I was like, I'm going to finish the cat ratings within this trial because it was just so good. And after that was over, like I continued flying, obviously. But everyone that I meet who is serious about becoming a real world pilot and they're like actively doing their flight training, I always tell them, hey, Pilotedge is essential. Even if you don't have a simulator, like I have a friend of mine who doesn't have a sim. I'm like, yo, if you want to just come over, can we live right down the street? Come over, use my sim. I already have Pilotedge. Use my account, and just practice because he's learning. And the thing he said, and I think a lot of people in chat and people who listen to this who are learning to become a pilot, one of the hardest things is not the flying part. It's the talking ATC and multitasking, things like that.
Sometimes that's literally what keeps people from a check ride. Their stick and rudder skills are terrific, but they just cannot get their head around talking on the radio. And at that point, you are burning so much money just practicing flying just because you have to talk on the radio. And that shouldn't be the case. And so Pilotedge has provided a way to do all that from the comfort of your own home.
Yeah, like you said,
a fraction of the cost.
Like you said, $20 a month, doing practice on the simulator versus, was it a few $100 a flight?
Oh yeah, and
so,
just going up in fuel prices for sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, man.
It's funny. I knew about the cat sim system. I didn't know about the iRating system.
I want to see.
I'm
gonna put XP on the spot in front of the whole world and say I want to see XP do the iRating. The whole thing, I think 10 or 11 lessons. I just want to see where you are, because like I know you know what you're doing. I know you've been flying Vatsim and IFAR. I want to know like how much do you really know about IFAR flying?
No, this is actually the iRating system has piqued my interest now. Going, wait a minute, I didn't know about this. I thought it was just for the VFR stuff with the cat rating, but if there's an iRating, I'm definitely going to jump on it and just see, what do I think I know and what I don't know.
And there's no prerequisite to complete the cat ratings before the iRating, so they're individual of each other, so you can just jump right in with the I1 rating.
Blue, challenge accepted.
Let's go. Let's go. I'll be your observer. I'll sit in the second seat for you.
No problem. Well, talk about cat.
Real quick. Before you transition on kind of the onboarding process of it, like you mentioned earlier, how a lot of people have what you call mic fright. What is something that maybe they're not necessarily training right now? Right, and I kind of like me. Like I want to be a pilot eventually. I want to continue to learn and get better knowledge. But I want, like, I'm curious about Pilotedge, but I'm kind of intimidated. What is it that can help that person get over that hump and think? Because let's go ahead and just talk about the elephant in the room. A lot of people think that Pilotedge can be rude. A lot of people are intimidated and they don't like to be corrected, and they have this mic fright. Like they've used Iveo, they've used Vatsim, they whatever, but they get over to Pilotedge, they're like, I don't know. Like, what is it that someone like that, whether they are been seasoned simmer on other networks or they're just a regular simmer, how can they overcome that and get into Pilotedge?
So I think it's important, talking about the rude controllers. It's important to realize the different roles that a Pilotedge controller plays. They play several. One is obviously the fact they have to act as an air traffic controller. Another one is they act as a proctor for the CAT and I rating. So, if you mess something up, or they're the ones who, fail or pass you when you're completing a rating. So it's a fine line they have to walk there. And even outside the ratings, they do some very minor, critique and correction. If you fly through a localizer or something, you didn't make your turn quickly enough, they'll probably tell you about it. The biggest advice I can give to someone who maybe be intimidated because they've heard that is just to never take it personally. The controllers are not, there to berate you. They're not there to get angry at you. They're there to simulate the national airspace system. And I think one great thing, one big word I love to use with Pilotedge is accountability. You add Pilotedge into your sim, and even, you add ATC into your sim, whether it be Vatsim, Iveo, Pilotedge, you're adding a level of accountability. But then when you take a jump further and do Pilotedge over the other networks, you're really adding accountability to where this is very much on a realistic level, where you have a reason to really pay attention and treat this realistically. If you bust a Bravo airspace, you're going to hear about it. ATC will tell you, you're in violation of the whatever Bravo airspace, flighting 180 immediately to exit the Bravo. And the reason behind this is because they are, like I said, they're trying to simulate the national airspace system, and they want to simulate as realistically as they can the service you would get in a real airplane. If you bust the Bravo in a real airplane, they're not going to be nice about it. They're not going to, just gently, tell you it's okay and then let you continue on your way. You might get that from, from one of the other networks, one of the other free networks. But realistically, the positive training comes from the fact that you have this, oh crap moment of, I just busted the Bravo. And if I were in the real airplane, this would have happened because, here I am thinking I'm taking it seriously, and I completely lost sight of my, situational awareness. So the biggest advice I'd say is just don't take it personally and know what you're getting out of it. You're getting an incredibly realistic experience. Yes, you are going to make mistakes, but guess what? Everyone makes mistakes on Pilotedge because it's a training network. Almost everyone is a student pilot on there of some sort, or just a hobbyist who's trying to learn. Overall, we just ask that you don't bite off more than you can chew. I think that's the best thing I can tell you. If you don't know much about flying, or for instance, if you don't know anything about VFR, I spoke on this earlier, don't load up in an A320 and try to fly IFR, unless you really have been told by someone who knows their stuff that you know what you're doing. Because a lot of people who do that, they think they know, but they don't actually know. And something will come up where they have to do a hold, or they have to, fly a SID or a star, and they're just lost. And, start with the basics. There's a reason why the FAA doesn't allow you to get your instrument ticket before you're private. And that's just because you have to start with the basics. When you're flying IFR, sometimes you have to fly a traffic pattern for a visual approach, or whatever it might be. You go around and you have to fly a traffic pattern on a visual approach. If you've never flown a traffic pattern VFR, you're not even going to know how to do that. So don't bite off more than you can chew. Go into Pilotedge with an open mind. And if you get corrected or you do something wrong, they're not going to ban your account as long as it wasn't, malicious or anything like that. Just, correct your actions and try and do better next time and learn from it. As human beings, we learn best from our mistakes. And I think that, as long as you can handle that as a person and know that it's not personal, just, take the learning experience out, get a learning experience out of the whole situation.
Could that be part of the issue, real quick, that people come to the network not understanding what the network is all about, so they don't take it as seriously?
I don't know if that's as much of an issue that we see. I think some people might just, that might be a little bit of it, where people don't understand the fact it's a multiplayer network. So, if you are malicious, or you do, you don't really care and you don't take it seriously, you're going to affect the experience of others. But overall, I think people do know what they're getting themselves into, and I think that overall, people's intentions are very good, and they're there to learn. So, I don't think there's a huge issue with that.
Good deal.
And is there before we get, is there any additional assistance to new people? I know you have the layout of the CAT ratings and the I ratings and whatnot, but what if you're like, all right, well, this is kind of like a wall of text to me? Is there a way that people can connect with you or the controller and be like, hey, I need maybe some one-on-one help on a Discord or something like that? Is there anything like that?
So, the Pilotedge does have a very active Discord, which is fantastic for questions. There are channels in there for the CAT ratings for VFR, the I ratings for IFR, which are also serve as just kind of general VFR and IFR questions. The Discord is very active. A ton of real world pilots on there, a ton of Pilotedge users on there. So it's a great place to ask any question you have, whether it be flight sim, real world, or Pilotedge related. It doesn't really matter. It's all aviation all the time in there. And then the Pilotedge has in the past offered some remote coaching. They're not currently really doing that in-house, but they still do have some options for that, for remote coaching, that you can contact them. So between the Discord, which is obviously just a free, kind of free tutoring, is text-based sort of thing. You can just ask questions to get stuff there, or some remote coaching, which would be a one-on-one sort of more paid session. There's plenty of resources. There's also a manual that's sold by pilotworkshop.com that Keith Smith from Pilotedge helped create, called the VFR Communications Manual, and there's an IFR Communications Manual. So if you're kind of more of a book learner, that's great for you as well. That comes with a digital copy too. So there are so many different learning opportunities over there. And, to find what's right for you, I would recommend the Discord. Honestly, just pilotedge.net/Discord will take you there. It'll give you an invite link. And it's a great place to just get to know the community and get any questions answered as well.
Here's what I discovered a while back about Pilotedge, and it's actually, I think it might be a good learning tool. I didn't know up until a few years ago that you can actually go back and listen to your archived
Yes.
flight
Yes.
and calls. And then, so at the moment you're making a mistake and you're thinking you're right, just rewind, go find your flight and listen to it again, and you realize, oh man, I did screw up, didn't I? So
100%.
a lot of people don't know this. Pilotedge, unlike the other platforms, archive all the radio communications of yourself and the controllers and everything, and you can go back and listen to yourself, which is fascinating to me. You know what I mean? So
It's one of the best ways to learn. And
yeah,
because a lot of people don't, you never know how you sound on the radio unless you actually, take your phone out and record yourself or something. Or if you're, maybe you're on a frequency that's on liveatc.net, that'd be kind of cool to hear yourself. But pilotedge.net/audio. And you can go there and don't let that scare you as a potential Pilotedge user. There are no names associated with any of those radio frequencies. You're not being shamed by being put on there. It's purely for training, so that after your flight, like you said, XP, you can go and just check out how you sounded, and see what maybe you're talking too fast, maybe you're mumbling, and again, like you said, if there's a discrepancy too, you can go check it, and hey, sometimes the controller's wrong. Controllers make mistakes too, so you just never know.
nice. All right, let's talk about some fun. Let's have some fun. SimVenture.
Yes.
SimVenture. You guys like what? What? SimVenture. You have SimVenture coming up. What is it? What it's about? What can we expect? Can you tell us about SimVenture, please? Want to know.
Sure. Yeah. So this is the fun part for sure. So for those who haven't heard of it, SimVenture, it's a play on words from AirVenture, which is EAA, Experimental Aircraft Association. It's their famous event every single year, minus 2020, but it's Oshkosh. You might also know of it as Oshkosh. So SimVenture was born in 2020. The idea came about, basically to sum it up, it's a virtual Oshkosh, basically, and not the air show portion necessarily, but more so the fly-in, fly-out portion, which is really what would be pertinent to the piloting portion of Oshkosh. And so for those who aren't familiar, Oshkosh, at the end of every July, over 10,000 airplanes flock up to, this is mainly general aviation airplanes, small pistons, flock up to a little city called Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And it's in right off Lake Winnebago there in Wisconsin. And it's just a small kind of Class Delta. I guess the airport footprint itself is quite large, but it's a very quiet Class Delta 51 weeks out of the year. But you take that last week in July every single year, and boy, does that place get popping. So it's actually typically a contract control tower 51 weeks out of the year, but for that 1 week, the FAA actually comes in and brings FAA controllers in to work all the traffic because there is so much of it. So it's especially unique for pilots to fly in and out of Oshkosh and during this AirVenture week, because of the specific procedures that come with it. In order to land 10,000 airplanes within several days of one another at a Class Delta, you can't just have normal ops. You can't just have airplanes calling up, hey, we're 6 miles southeast, inbound to land. It would be 100% unmanageable. So instead, there are very specific procedures that are outlined in what's now called a notice, previously known as a NOTAM, but that's a change EAA made this year, now called a notice. And it's a VFR arrival procedure. It's not a STAR, but it's a STAR is an IFR term for those who don't know. But it's a charted VFR arrival procedure where basically everyone lines up in a single file line following these train tracks, and ATC picks you out by type and color. They don't even really use your tail number. They have you rock your wings to acknowledge because that allows them to keep talking without unkeying the mic. So they just keep talking. They say, red and blue Cessna, rock your wings, and you just give yourself a little wing rock, and they know you hear them. So anyways, back in 2020, SimVenture was born. This is actually pre-pandemic that we had this idea. And then once the pandemic began, and specifically when EAA announced that they were canceling AirVenture 2020, we all kind of said, man, it's really on us to kind of keep this legacy going. And so we actually became an official part that year of EAA's Spirit of Aviation Week, which was their basically virtual Oshkosh that they held. That had a lot of workshops and seminars and all that. And again, for those who aren't familiar with the actual AirVenture, it's a giant air show, but it's also a ton of, everyone who's anyone in aviation is there. They have booths, they have seminars, they have workshops, you name it, it's happening at Oshkosh for that whole week. So SimVenture was a part of their online thing that year. It really we took the theme of nostalgia with being unable to fly there for real, so people could do it virtually, especially while everyone was cooped up in their house all summer. Then fast forward to last year, 2021, we took more of a pilot training approach. So we held SimVenture about a week and a half before their actual AirVenture. And by the way, I should mention that the controllers who control SimVenture are the real Oshkosh controllers who do AirVenture. So jumping back a little bit to everyday Pilotedge, Pilotedge has a mixture of some retired controllers, some military controllers, some controller enthusiasts. Regardless of what it is, the Pilotedge controllers are all held to a very high realistic standard. So you would never know the difference of who's real and who's not. But you jump into SimVenture now, and SimVenture with Oshkosh being such of these specific procedures, it's important that we get people who know what they're doing. So what better than get the real guys and girls? And that's exactly what we did. And the great thing is these people love it so much, they're willing to hop on and do it virtually. But there's a whole purpose behind it, because what we did in 2021 and what we're doing again here in 2022 is more taking a training approach behind it. It doesn't really change the event at all, but more so just kind of pushing the idea of, hey, if you're planning to fly to AirVenture for real, what better than to prepare yourself a week and a half ahead of time than to fly into SimVenture with your home simulator. That's not to say that it's only a real world pilot event by any means. Absolutely not. We are 100% open to hobbyists and enthusiasts, or even those who are pilots and just can't make the trip to Oshkosh. But we allow pilots to practice ahead of time, because this is a very unique procedure with visual reference points, quick maneuvers, unusual maneuvers, landing halfway down the runway at times where your aiming point is going to be completely different than normal, turning base inside of the numbers, which is just odd. But these are all things that you're going to have to do potentially if you fly to AirVenture. And so we give you that chance to practice that ahead of time with SimVenture, and it's in the spirit of being a safer and more proficient pilot. The controllers do this because they love it, and they also believe in the mission of making everything safer. They obviously don't want any incidents on their watch when they go out to Oshkosh, 2 weeks later. So, they'd prefer for everyone to do this ahead of time, and it should make you a better pilot when it comes to AirVenture. And it doesn't really matter if you're a seasoned AirVenture pilot or not. Even if you've done this for the past 20 years in the real airplane, you've only done it 20 times. You've only done it once a year. So you're not necessarily proficient in the procedure. And so, why not take an hour or two and fly it a few times ahead of time in your sim with the actual controllers and just get confident and see what you're going to be going through just a week later. So that's really the whole premise behind SimVenture. We mimic we mimic everything to a T as much as we can, wing rocks and all. And just being able to have those actual controllers out there is pretty great.
But not just the flying, though. Don't you guys have a custom-built scenery for
We do,
Oshkosh?
yes.
Blue did it last year. He flew the whole thing, and I think you have a booth in the scenery.
He does.
And different things like that. So the scenery, is it available on Microsoft only? Microsoft X-Plane?
So the scenery we allow all sim platforms. So FS 2020, X-Plane 11, Prepared, and even FSX. We have scenery for all four of those platforms.
Wow.
Naturally, the FS 2020 scenery does look the best. I'm surprised, that's no surprise to anyone. But yeah, we, like you're saying, so Blue has had and will still have this year his own little booth. We go around, we get some sponsors. Blue, we appreciate you being one of them. And this year too, we're even having some contests, some giveaways. So we actually have over $2,500 worth of prizes to give out. Things as great as the Boeing yoke from Thrustmaster. We've got actually, even to top that, we have a Bose A20 headset. No joke.
Add me on that right now.
So the way that people can get entered into that is just to fly. You get one entry per takeoff and one entry per landing. So the more you fly, the more chance you have to win.
Wow.
And that's we want to encourage everyone to fly as much as possible. So the event is being held between July 14th and 17th, which is about a week and a half before your venture starts. And it's a Thursday through Sunday. We'll run about 3 to 4 hours every day. We'll publish those specific times here within the next few weeks, but currently we just have the dates published of the 14th through 17th. And again, we encourage people to fly as much as possible. If you want to, fly for all 15 hours or whatever it is across the 4 days, again, 3 to 4 hours a day, and get entered into the win, 12 different times, 12 different entries, then go for it. And so, we're really excited. We're really thankful to have those sponsors this year, and it's going to make for a really great event.
Jeez. Wow.
You said a lot, and I have a lot of questions. I'm trying to,
Sure.
I'm trying to organize. So I'm gonna start with the
Chat's had a lot of questions too.
thing that's on my head. Yeah, chat has a lot of questions as well. So are you still looking for for more sponsors in case any potential sponsors are listening?
we could. We are. The window is closing, and we. But if you can certainly reach out to us. Social media is probably the best. You can reach out to us at Pilotedge ATC on either Instagram or Facebook. If you're interested in being a sponsor, if you have something you want to give away, we'll certainly put up your sponsor logo on our website and everything like that. So yes, if anyone's out there looking to do that, that is available.
Also, what, if any, changes have you guys made to? Let's start with the scenery.
Sure.
Is it the exact same scenery as last year?
With the exception of the sponsors, for the most part, it is. We are adding a few little extra small fun details in there, but the bulk of it is the same. The railroad tracks haven't moved. It's a lot of it's the same, but there are some additions in there definitely, and like I said, there's scenery for all 4 sim platforms exclusively available on Pilotedge for free. You just have to have a Pilotedge account. And by the way, we talked about $20 a month for Pilotedge ahead of time. You did mention Blue, the free trial briefly, but everyone still gets a free trial. The free trial offers you 5 hours of connectivity time within a 2-week period. So either 5 hours of being connected to Pilotedge or 2 weeks from the time you sign up, whatever comes first. So if you're listening to this and you have never tried Pilotedge, you haven't done your free trial yet, you might want to wait until 2 weeks before SimVenture and then sign up, because then you'll have 5 hours of connectivity time to fly several approaches into Oshkosh, and that will count. You'll get entered into the drawings to win that way too. As far as other changes though to the scenery, nothing too significant. We did just drop our promo video today actually for SimVenture 2022. You can find that on the social media channels. It's based on YouTube, so youtube.com/Pilotedge ATC. You'll find the 2022 SimVenture video there. That'll give you actually the best idea really of what this is going to look like for you as a pilot and the kind of ATC chatter you can expect to hear. We're also going to have a review session that's being sponsored by Flight Sim Association. FSA will be doing that about a week and a half ahead of time, so you can look for that on the Pilotedge social channels as well. The review session being reviewing the notice, and so that you can it's a bit of a tutoring session to say, hey, okay, here's what it's going to look like for you as you fly down the tracks and rock your wings and all that. So if you're unfamiliar, I'd highly recommend you come to that. And then I guess it's since you guys are having me on here, I'll reveal that we are allowing jets this year. So this is actually is an exclusive for you right now. This is the first time it's going public. Now there is a caveat to that. It's going to be with maximum takeoff weight of 18,000 pounds or less. So that basically limits you to small citations and less.
Honda jet.
The Honda jet would probably work. Yeah. So we're talking single pilot operation jets, stuff like that. And it's all still VFR, so still no IFR operations, but there are plenty of airplanes like Cirrus Vision jets and things like that fly in there, small jets that fly in VFR, and they do have a little bit different procedure than the piston engines. They fly what's called the warbird arrival, but that's all going to be available in the notice. So that's a big information drop there. We're also allowing helicopters this year. So for those who fly choppers in the sim, we'll be allowing no tour routes. The tour routes are still going to be flown by Pilotedge staff. That basically all that does is it provides just some extra traffic that you see around the Oshkosh grounds that you would see if you're actually there. But for transient helicopter ops, that is inbounds and outbounds, we will allow that this year. So those are the two biggest changes that we're doing, and we're really excited to have those changes. And to introduce the jets. We introduced turboprops last year, so we're taking it up a step a little bit this year. But still no 737s, still no A320s. We're not we're not in the business of doing any IFR operations, and certainly something like that big wouldn't come in VFR to the show anyways.
One thing that would be 380s. One thing that would be interesting is you mentioned how like there's a helicopter like tour that goes on, but that's flown by a staff member, so it's obviously like someone kind of giving some extra traffic. And I remember seeing the helicopter last year, and I was like, this is pretty cool. Actually, there's a helicopter flying over. Would it? And this, you guys know me. I can't help but just give suggestions and ideas. I just can't help it. So maybe you can't do it this year, but like one of the really cool things about SimVenture, I feel, is when you're there after you land, is you sit around and you just wait to see what else is going to land. Like, what else is going to come in? What's he flying? What's he flying?
Sure.
And adding the jets or the light jets and adding the helicopters, I think it's going to add a lot of that. Hey, I kind of want to sit around and see what else is coming through. What about, as you mentioned, the warbird arrival? What about having either a specific person or a staff member fly in some type of bigger aircraft? AirVenture does have bigger aircraft that are on display, but they have to fly into the event as well. Would it be pretty cool to have something like that fly in? Would that be possible?
I mean, it'd be 100% possible. We do run into model matching issues a little bit, obviously with the sim, specifically across platforms as well, right? So if we were, say, to take an A380 and someone in FSX or X-Plane didn't have an A380 and it just shows up in a Cessna 172, that ends up doing nothing for them, right? So we unfortunately do run into model matching issues. Back in 2020, we actually only had a small, well, I shouldn't say small, but we had about 23 airplanes you could choose from. And so this was before FS 2020 launched. This was back when X-Plane 11 was pretty much everyone's go-to sim. And we had a small list of 20 so airplanes to choose from. So the model matching was actually spot on. That was cool because it was colors and type were 100% spot on for everyone. We lost out a little bit in 2021 where we said, I think while it's going to be sad to lose the perfect model matching, I think people would more enjoy flying exactly what they wanted, whether it's a Piper Cub, a Pitts, whatever it is. I think people would prefer to not be limited to the airplane and livery they can fly. So we did give that up in 2021, and we'll continue to basically allow people to fly whatever they want within the limits of the notice in 2022, knowing very well that we are sacrificing model matching for that. But it's just something that we have to deal with multiplayer simulators.
Gotcha.
Wow. There you have it, guys. If there was a time to sign up for Pilotedge, it would be now, or a couple weeks before, so you can get exactly 2 weeks ahead before
July 4th, I guess, would give you 2 weeks to the 17th, which would be perfect. So it's going to be, it will be as real as we can make it, guaranteed. Wing rocks and all, like I said.
And you guys are not adding any additional actual approaches or arrivals. I know there's a few other approaches, I believe, that are incorporated in the real world event.
The only two VFR ones are the ones we do, which are the Fisk arrival and the Warbird. The helicopters have a very, very small approach, and which we're doing this year as well. But no, those are the only two VFR arrivals. We do also run several different runway configurations. So, just like last year, that was another change, 2020 to 2021, was we added several runway configurations. And we did that through technology we like to call dynamic flagmen, where we can inject flagmen in real time into your simulator to direct you as to where to turn on the airport grounds. There is no ground control at Oshkosh. Oh, wow. You just follow the flagmen's direction, flagmen being actual men with flags on the ground. And so we can inject those in real time to have you turn one way or another. And that's how we're able to coordinate different traffic flows on a whim.
Yeah, I don't know how you guys did that last year, but it was so dope. It was so. I was like, I landed, and then like the freaking flag man was like that way. I was like, okay.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. It took a lot of work, but it definitely worked in the end. And it's great that we can run different runway configurations because it allows people to practice different runway arrivals, which is there's no way to know what arrival you're going to get when you get up there.
Yeah.
Definitely. Wow. So for all you GA guys who have been begging me to fly GA, here's your chance to go shine and
Yeah.
go do this because it's fun with everybody else doing it. This is going
Yeah.
to be fun. Definitely. I got some general questions from the chat I wanted to ask you. So I know we don't
Sure.
have you for a
Yeah, I
long
am running
time.
out of time, but go ahead.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you still do NDB approaches? Is that available
Yes.
on?
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
There we go. That's one
100%. As
more
long as the
question.
NDB still exists, and the chart is still published, those are getting hard to come by. But yes, those perfectly fine.
Nice. Here's a question from me. Since I do mostly airliners, what is the longest route I can do on the Pilotedge network?
For the Pilotedge coverage area,
Yeah.
I'd say it's going to be something.
El
Someone's
Paso to
probably
Seattle.
listening, and that's probably about it. Yeah, I mean, there might be an obscure airport like that's north of Seattle that Pilotedge covers. I'd have to look at the coverage map, but yeah, for big airports, I think Blue, you probably nailed it. El Paso to Seattle.
Or San Diego to like Montana.
That's like a 3.5 hour flight.
Yeah,
4 hours.
yeah.
Okay, that's more than enough.
We like to think so too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I know Blue had some more questions from the chat. Any more, Blue?
I think that's it. The rest of my stuff is stuff that we don't necessarily need him here for. It's like stuff that things that I want to do this year, because another thing we didn't really mention is the scenery is great, but it also has like a really cool area for like short takeoff and landing competition and stuff like that. So I know I did, and a few other content creators went over to that area on the days that they were not like live for the event, and we just have fun, just do short takeoff and landing competitions.
That's great for you guys to make use of the hours where, because obviously for those listening and watching, it's Wisconsin is not in the everyday coverage area. It's not within the Western US. So but obviously we make an exception for that for SimVenture, but when SimVenture is not live for those 3 to 4 hours a day, it's really just a free for all out there, and people can play around exploring the scenery, or like what Blue's saying, doing a short takeoff and landing competition as well.
You could do your own little air show when they're not live as well.
Absolutely.
That's all. That's what I was thinking in my head right now. Like, I'm gonna do a short takeoff and landing. I'm gonna do probably do a practice approach a few days before. All that stuff.
Well, and Blue, I remember watching your stream last year, and you were running a little late. I think you were kind of chasing the end of the event, but I thought it was so cool. You flew up from what, Houston?
Yes, I flew legitimately real time from Houston all the way to Oshkosh.
That's so cool. And I think that for people who aren't familiar, people do fly from all over the country to go to Oshkosh in real world. And so what Blue did was 100% realistic with doing that. So I would recommend, I would encourage people to do the same thing. Choose your hometown and fly out. We actually have a guy who's designed kind of this pseudo procedure where it's based around the Pilotedge coverage area, but the idea is you start out in the West Coast, start in San Francisco or San Diego, and you fly this route that eventually kind of all funnels into, I think, Denver Centennial, and then it's all straight line to Oshkosh from there. So the point is that hopefully if enough people fly this route, it's actually not published for 2022 yet, but we're going to get that on social media soon. If enough people were to do this in kind of the quote unquote road to Oshkosh, whether it's over a day or a week or whatever, you might actually end up, flying with some other people who are heading up to Oshkosh. Some people really like that realism of placing your planes up there, and actually physically, not physically, but virtually transporting your airplane up to Wisconsin. So anyways, you can look for that on our social media. But yeah, Blue, I think that's super cool. I would love to do that if I had the time, actually to do a true, cross country out to Oshkosh in the Sim. I think that'd be a really neat thing, especially to time it perfectly to where you're coming in during the event window. So great job with that.
I was dodging storms and everything. It was this massive storm last year. I had to go around. That's the reason I was late. So, thank you, man, so much, seriously, for explaining all this stuff and kind of.
This was really great.
Yeah.
And for those who want to learn more, pilotedge.net, there's a big SimVenture logo on the right side. You can click, or just go straight to pilotedge.net/SimVenture. We're constantly updating that page with new updates as things come out. Again, like I said, the promo video went live today. Check that out on the Pilotedge ATC YouTube channel. And the more people who fly this, the better. So share it with your friends. It's gonna, the more people we have, the cooler it'll be. We usually, for the past 2 years, we've had over 1,100 arrivals each year.
Wow.
And so we're looking to, we're looking to beat that this year as well. So it's going to be really cool. And especially if anyone there knows someone who is planning to actually fly an AirVenture, get them on this and get them to practice ahead of time, because I don't want anyone to be hesitant to fly an AirVenture because they're afraid or they're unfamiliar with the procedure. Practice ahead of time. It's going to be really simple.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Now, this is a good community event. I love that. Wow. I'll be watching Blue doing an event this year.
No. We're going to get XP to fly in with me.
Hey, you could even do some shared cockpit potentially.
Yeah, we could.
You guys
There you go. There you go.
So Pilotedge supports that entirely. So, but yeah, thanks guys. I really appreciate having me on, and all the best to you guys. And as you approach 30 episodes, congratulations.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for giving us your time. Absolutely appreciate all you guys over there on Pilotedge, and I'll be worried about my I rating now. I'm gonna have to
hey, we'll be watching for it, and we'll be watching for both you and SimVenture too.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
All right, man. We'll see you later.
Take care, you guys. Bye-bye.
See ya. All right, so XP,
the man, the myth, the legend himself. It's going
XP, guys, chat. It's time for intervention.
Wow.
XP is now accepting the challenge to do the Pilotedge I rating, and I'm gonna add this little sauce on it. Is he doing it live as well? So yeah, and I would also challenge him to fly into SimVenture. You don't have to fly from Florida. You can just do a little circuit. But yeah, I think you enjoy it. Like, let that be your GA flight, your one GA flight of the year.
Let me get the I rating out of the way first. Let's do that. And yes, you might as well do it live on stream, because hey man, what's more pressure than watching everybody laugh and mock you while you're screwing up? So I'm gonna do it. I'm definitely gonna do the I rating. You know what I mean? That's my return to Pilotedge. I haven't been on there for a minute, so we're gonna be doing that, man. Absolutely, we're gonna be doing it. I'm actually looking forward to it, because you know what? I'm gonna be able to learn some stuff. I've been, cutting corners and taking chances on Vatsim and not getting yelled at, and but this time I'm gonna have to step up to the plate and do some stuff, man. That's what we gotta do.
I'll say this about the I ratings. One of the interesting things that I found, because before getting on the Pilotedge, I thought kind of like you. I was like, yeah, man, I fly Vatsim all the time. I know IFR, and you do. You actually do understand the majority of it. It's not gonna be difficult for you because you have a good sense of what's happening. You understand the rebacks and the order and things like that. But I did this. One of the first lessons on I rating is basically it's a basic instrument approach or something like that, and you basically, it gives you like a VOR to fly out to, and from that VOR you start your approach back to the airport you started at. And the thing that was confusing to me, because we usually fly A to B, we don't fly A to A, right? And so this particular IFR flight was A to A, and I was like, I didn't know you could fly IFR A to A. I didn't know I could just leave and come back IFR. Like, that's something I didn't know was possible. And that's basically what you do. You call in just like you do any other IFR flight plan. Like, hey, San Diego clearance looking for IFR to San Diego. I'm like, that sounds weird, but that's exactly how it goes. And like, I know it's not a big deal. You're not going to use that a lot, but it's super helpful. And since that lesson, now, instead of just loading up into the aircraft to practice landings, I actually load up at an airport and do an IFR departure for an IFR practice ILS approach in a certain aircraft just to practice my landings. So it's kind of interesting. So anyways, that's just a little bit of what you can learn, obviously, but it's so much more. You learn about RNAV, you learn about holding. I know everybody doesn't like that word, holding, go arounds, like stuff like that. Stuff that we kind of avoid is all in there to help you get comfortable with, and it's really cool.
Right. All right. That's it, man. I'm gonna bite the bullet and do it.
Yeah, man.
Definitely.
You'll enjoy it. You'll enjoy it, man. You will.
Absolutely. I mean, I definitely enjoy it.
And if you fail, you just try it again. Like, everybody fails at least once or twice in the ratings.
Nah, man, I'm not gonna fail any legs. I'm just gonna get it first shot.
You guys heard it here first. So quick recap. We had Pilotedge on the show. Kevin, thank you so much again for being on. A few new details on SimVenture, basically the virtual Oshkosh events on the Pilotedge network coming up in July. A few new features that we didn't have last year. They're now allowing for light jets. That was never a thing for them to allow yet into the event. That's super exciting. Also, helicopters are now going to be allowed in to fly in. I don't even know, like, I'm right now just thinking, like, I don't know what direction I'm going to go. Like, last time I flew from my hometown in a Piper PA-28 Turbo. absolutely loved it. I'm like, what am I gonna fly now? Am I gonna fly from my hometown again? Should I fly from XP? Should I go fly and pick up XP and bring him? Should I do another flight from like the West Coast? Like, I don't know what, you know. So I'm trying to figure out what, because I do want to do it again. I really enjoy doing the long distance stuff, and simulating a cross country. Because again, I know that in my real world flight training, I'm going to have to learn the art of planning a cross country flight. There's no sim brief when you're doing a cross-country VFR flight. You just look at the map. All right, I want to stop here for fuel. I'm going to have this as my alternate in case it rains or in case I get low on fuel, whatever. Like, I think I have to make like 3 stops on the way up there. So anyways, we'll talk more about that as that gets closer. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully I can see more of you guys flying out there with us in July.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then for the rest of you guys who are always correcting me on flying my jets properly and checklists, you all need to be on Pilotedge as well. If you have, seriously, because, you know, you guys are stickler for details. So let's make it detailed. Let's do it. You know what I mean? Absolutely. But yeah, this is fun. I flew Pilotedge real quick. I flew Pilotedge way back when I just started simming. You know, I have an account, always had an account with them.
You mean before you started streaming?
Before I started streaming, yeah, absolutely. Because, you know, and then when I discovered that you can actually go back and listen to your own radio calls and stuff, it's like, whoa, really?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it's easy to do. So we're going to get back into it. And then
you want to know a secret, a trick? And you can try this on Vatsim. It works on Vatsim as well. And that is, try asking for IFR in the air.
Oh, that's right.
You can take off VFR. Just say, all right, tower requesting north departure, and just depart north. And then, all right, I want IFR to Boston. And then from what I understand, and you controllers in chat can correct me, but because you're in the air and you're asked for IFR, you cannot be queued behind the ground IFR people. You get a higher priority.
Because you're already in the air.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
So next time XP streams, I'm just kidding, no ideas.
Also, as a benefit too, you know, you could start out, as you said, in the East Coast on Vatsim, and then when you get to Denver airspace, you can switch over to Pilotedge and finish your long haul with guaranteed ATC coverage going into Cali or something like that, or Seattle or wherever.
Yeah, you can.
Definitely. Yeah, that's a good one, man. Wow. Learned a lot.
Hold on, I got a really quick story here from Captain Shaquille Oatmeal. Said he spoke with a E-145 captain today at Charlotte Flight Center. He said he has his instrument rating done by flying on Pilotedge all the time. He used that platform as a tool. That's pretty cool.
It is a tool. That platform is a tool. And, you know, I'm glad you asked the question about, you know, people getting corrected on the network, and, you know, and he's like, listen, it's the real world. You have to take it for what it is. You have to take the procedures seriously. You have to take the radio calls seriously. So you can't just jump on it and then you make a mistake and you get corrected and you feel bad about it. You know what I mean? It's a learning tool. That's what it is. It's one-for-one real world ATC, basically.
Yeah.
Starting with the charts, you don't have to worry about what your frequencies are. Go look at the charts. And I learned that one time I was in Denver, was it? And here's like the north side ground and the south side ground. And I called up the wrong ground. I was like, wait a minute. But those are the little detailed things that makes it nerve-wracking, but also makes it ultra realistic when you're flying with Pilotedge ATC. Is that you want ultra realism? There you have it right here. Not only you're playing on your checklist and your pushback, but now we're talking about ground frequencies being different on the ground. You know what I mean? I think the only thing they don't do is ramp control. I know Anthony's in chat. I don't think they do ramp.
No ramp control.
Or pushing back on an active taxiway. Pushing back from a non-moving area to taxiway. Oh yeah, you just screwed up. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But those are the things that it gives you. If you're bored of simming, or if you get your simming done, you can get your plane off the ground in 20 minutes, and you can be in the air and fly and press autopilot. Add that extra level of realism with Pilotedge to your flying, then you have more challenges.
Yeah.
Do you understand? And then your simming will be like a different next level. Definitely. So anyway, yeah, that's all I wanted to add to it.
Yeah, so if you didn't hear anything else, XP is doing iRating and flying a SimVenture. Thank you guys for listening to episode 29.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah,
Thank you
shout out
again,
to
Anthony. I wanted to give a shout out to Anthony in chat.
man. Absolutely, Anthony. Thank you so much for your encouragement. With Anthony does Vatsim and Pilotedge, by the way. And other things like that. So if you can reach out to Anthony in chat, guys, if you have any questions, he's always willing to answer and help you guys. So there's a bunch of Pilotedge guys who are willing to help if you go over to their Discord server and join it. So shout out to Anthony in chat, man. Definitely appreciate you guys.
For sure. And again, if you guys want more information about Pilotedge, I believe the website is pilotedge.com, or is it .net? Check.
.net.
Is it .net? Yeah, making sure.
Pilotedge.net.
Pilotedge.net. I think on my channel you can actually type in !Pilotedge, and that's already linked by Nightbot. But I think
one comment in chat says, does Pilotedge have events like Vatsim or simulate ground stops or emergencies? Well, you can add failures. You can have them inject failure. I know with X-Plane they could inject failures into your flying. So if you want random failures on the X-Plane platform, I don't know about Microsoft.
Wait, Pilotedge can inject failures into your...
Oh, absolutely.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yes.
Oh, man.
Yes, they do. They can inject failures randomly without you turning it on any airplane. I know on X-Plane you can, and I've seen it done to different streamers before. Not requested to have it done, of course. Engine out failure on climb out or bird strike, or you know what I mean. So yeah, they do have that. But anyway,
Did not know that.
Oh yeah, we could go deep in it, man.
Oh boy.
You should request it on your flights.
Oh. I mean, I struggle just to get the whole flight complete. Let me get real good first, and then we can do that.
I hear you, man.
Wow. That's crazy.
Anyway, that's it. All right, folks. That's got to be another one in the bag. Was it episode 29? 30 is going to be special. Don't worry. It's going to be coming up soon for you guys. And we have some big announcements to come up too as far as the Blu-XPerience is concerned. And you guys are going to like it. But stay tuned for that on the next one. Definitely stay tuned for that. We'll let you guys know what's about to happen with us. Sorry about... actually, I'm not even sorry, but couldn't get both streams up today for whatever reason, but it is what it is. But I'm glad you guys came over to Blue's channel, and we're all here. We're all celebrating this. And we'll be back with another episode. Blue, what you got coming up?
Nothing. I mean, there's always stuff coming up, but I don't have a stream planned for tomorrow. Because I have work on the ramp at the airport. So my plans are working on real planes. So looking forward to that. What about you?
I am actually leaving tomorrow afternoon, going away for the weekend, so I'm not going to be back on stream by Monday, but I was thinking maybe I should do a stream tomorrow morning early, like, I don't know, 9 a.m. Eastern time, but most of you guys are sleeping on the West Coast. I don't know. We'll see.
Hey,
but
do it for Australia.
There you go. Australia. Ooh, there you go.
Australia special. Mm-hmm.
True.
Yeah, where my Aussies at? Aussie, oi, oi. Okay, yes, sir.
True. Absolutely, man. So, yeah, let me think about it, see what I'm doing in the morning. But that's it. And guys, enjoy yourselves, man. Enjoy the rest of your evenings. Thank you so much for hanging out with the Blu-XPerience again with my man Blue. And we'll see you guys in another episode of this.
Yes, sir. And remember, you got 3 choices. Give up, give in, give it all you got. Peace, love, and God bless you. We'll see you guys next time. Next video. We out. Peace.
Yeah.